Yeah, I say hello to Dmitrii, and I think it took us a while to find the right spot. I'm happy that we were able to manage. So thanks to your colleague for helping here. And yeah, I really like to get to know you a bit better. And maybe you can start with a little intro, giving us a little bit more context here, and then we put on the time machine.
Yeah. So Dmitri, um, I would say 25, 26 years in the industry. Uh, let me tell briefly probably my working or career experience, and I'm open to any questions. Please let's discuss if you have something to ask.
Yeah.
So first of all, currently, I'm a VP in the Humanoid. So it is company who was established, I would say, 1 year ago, and I was the first employee, and I have started as a CTO, and I will tell a bit more later about it, but right now about myself.
Yeah, please.
First of all, Uh, I have started to work at Marine. That was 25, 26 years ago. And the task was, to automate the ship. So it was a system which collect all ship data. And it was Windows NT at that moment. I was an engineer, and that was my kind of learning curve to run the ship. And it was quite amazing, honestly, and hard. So, but honestly, I believe that it is the first robot which I really try. Uh, and from this perspective, yeah, system engineer, like, I mean, in software systems, it is drivers, working with hardware, some logic with hardware logic, and so on. And it was like 4 or 5 years adventure. We built this ship. It's probably still in use. But later on, I was shifted to some kind of encryption devices. So, like, I have created as a mm, fully encrypted, I would say, software which allow you to fully encrypt the system disks, and it was like 20 years ago. Now it's like usual thing in macOS, but recently, 20 years ago, it was not so often. Later on,
Oh
I
no,
have,
wait a second. If you don't
yeah,
mind me jumping in, we already starting with the professional life. I like to spend a little bit of time in the phase of yeah, where you grew up, how was your parents, because very often my founders have engineers as parents, but sometimes I have parents that are artists, right? And here I really like to understand what is the background here, family background, environment, but also educational wise. What, you know, do
mm,
you have a degree? What kind of degree? You were mentioning something, but maybe we can spend a little bit more time here.
yeah, sure. My father was engineer
Hmm.
all his career. He was engineer, and I'm not sure that I allowed to talk about his work, but all his life he did it like
Okay.
from the scratch. My mother was, I would say, mm, chief in the school canteen, it's probably called. So she was responsible for their breakfasts and lunches for
Hmm.
school breakfasts and lunches.
Mm.
And all her life she's also working there.
And your father is an engineer, so do you think that because you got in contact with engineering topics or math and physics or talking about engineering problems, that because you were introduced very early on, that was something that was interesting for you?
I don't know, honestly. I, 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 I don't feel that we were so close with him about his job, but it's about mindset, like how he's thinking, how he is perceives the world, and
Hmm.
and it's anyway kind of something which father can give his kids, like world perception. And yeah, I have engineering mind, definitely. For me, I feel myself much more comfortable with engineers rather than, I don't know, business or marketing and so
It's good that you say this because it shows that even though you're not specifically talking about the work itself, the way how to talk about things, how to see things, can make a huge difference in when you grow up, right? And so, was your father someone who encouraged you and supported you in your idea of becoming an engineer yourself?
Honestly, I don't feel that I had a choice.
Okay.
Like no, because I was very strong in, I don't know, math, physics, chemistry, but like, I don't know, English or languages. No.
Mm-hmm.
And from this perspective, I went to university, and with kind of no like doubts, like definitely uh, computer science, because at that moment no AI was exist, and this university was air and space university. So idea is that you know, like physics of planes, spaceships, and so on. But most of the faculty was computer science. So and starting, I would say, second year, I had started my career.
When you go to university, I have a lot of guests here that are from the US and from Europe, or from Western Europe. Um, so I think if you don't mind me, giving a little bit of insight in how it is to go to university, you because you went to university in Russia, right? So I
Yeah.
think this is a bit different than being in a university in San Francisco or maybe Paris or Germany. And I think, I mean, I'm curious if my audience is curious. At this moment, I don't care. I'm really curious myself. So how was that? Which year are we talking about? And how was the feeling? How was the drill and the passion and the how was that? Can you maybe go back in time and remember how that time period was for you?
Yeah, sure. It was 19th, and maybe it was not a very easy situation. It's ex-USSR. Economics is not working very well. However, the education was free, and mostly in Russia it's still free. And from this perspective, again, as usual, you can consume of knowledge as much as you, how to say, as as you want, really. And however, that period of time, I would say it was 19th. Computer science, it was really beginning of computer science. So it was not commodity on that moment, and everyone at least in our country, like learned computer science by their own. So, for example, I read books, for example, how to create drivers for Windows. You can take only books. Professors who learned didn't know that. However, academia or university can provide you fundamental knowledge, like how the network is working, what is OSI, what is the standards exist, what topology of networks could be, what's the mathematics in the controls. It's all exists because all that is like 50 years old or maybe more. And from this perspective, and 20 years ago, I didn't realize that fundamental knowledge is more important than this kind of practical knowledge. And for me, it was really hard, honestly, because I worked full time and I learned full time. And for me, it was like. Uh, Early in the morning, I went to the university like 2 or 3 lectures, then to the office like 5 hours, then kind of some homework, and because lack of the time, I was needed also to work or really on weekends. And from this perspective, starting, I would say 20 until 25, I didn't have vacations, I didn't have weekends. I just like walked and learned and nothing else. And maybe on 25, I was already more or less senior engineer.
Because you were able to apply what you were learning directly on your job.
Yeah, and I learned on the job, and I can apply it what I did in my job for the learning. For
Mm.
example, my master was done on based on my work in other company. From this perspective, I tried, to use to do both, and to have kind of a synergy from that. And I had it.
When I was studying mechanical engineering at the Technical University in Berlin, we had one because as you said, the foundations is the most important one. So even though you have different kind of degrees and different kind of faculties, like the basic math and physics is the same for all of them, right? It doesn't matter where you go, you have the same modules for everyone. And I remember one, so this is mechanic. Mechanic was split into 3 different parts of mechanics, right? And one of the basic mechanic, and they were going in circles. So we had 3 different professors, and they were all teaching the same things. But so you were doing the first module, then the second module, and then the third module. So, but when you enter university, the prof is already in module 2. So they had another professor who was then starting his cycle with module 1, 2, and 3, right? So and I remember one of the professors that we have. I think he's still there. His name is Popov, and so he's doing mechanics, and you were allowed to have like a little booklet with all the very important equations and numbers which you can use, because if you don't understand the techniques and the reason behind it, those numbers and that little booklet doesn't make any sense for you, right? But he was against that. He said, no, I want you to have those like in your mind. You should have them
Mm.
because you need them all the time. So if you're outsourcing that part and make your life easier, it will be hard anyway. So there is this myth of the Russian engineer, right? So this is the reason why I'm so curious. How was it studying in during that time? Nowadays, you have a lot of people working together in teams and doing practical projects and helping each others out. But there's also competition, right? So how was that for you back then?
I would add one story from university. There was one subject where we learned how the CPU is working,
Hmm.
and one of the tasks was to design your own CPU.
Hmm.
And from this perspective, as a exam looks like professor opened like somewhere in the middle of your program for your CPU and asked what is going on here. Like it's like assembly code for not existing CPU, and he asked to explain each line. And honestly, I still believe that that was the most helpful thing in my career, because now I know how a CPU is working, like physically, from hardware perspective, and I know like assemble, I know like how drivers are working, how cloud, and from this perspective, on that moment, it's probably already 10 years knowledge. I can take any software stack in any kind of place and explain how it's really implemented and working, probably except Java code, because it's like interpreted and I did not have direct experience with it. But if you will ask me about, I would say any how virtual machine is working easily. So from this perspective, if you look about regarding your question, what period of time you're asking, like 20 years ago or now? Because it's kind
No,
of
no, back then, when you were still at university, how was the interchange between and the communication and working together in groups among the students? How was student life for you? Because you
oh,
said you were working so much and you were working part-time as well, full-time as well. So how was the interaction with other students? Was there like a certain vibe on the campus? Was there maybe you can tell me a bit about this?
for me, I have it was a basketball game. When I just came, it was fourth year probably, and I noticed that guys, my kind of university mates, were playing in basketball, and I was so impressed because I realized that for 4, maybe 5 years, I never touched the ball at all. And from this perspective, honestly, all my life was very focused on that thing, like work and studying. However, really, I still have set of friends from that time. We're chatting, we kind of love each other, but not so often, maybe like usual people. And on that period of time, they really helped me, like, hey, Dmitrii, remember tomorrow is exam, maybe you need some help, or okay, maybe like they shared some information, because anyway, you can't fit everything. And from this perspective, it was, I would say, kind of kind environment. It was not aggressive, helpful, and I believe very productive. Again, for me personally, at least. But all my each member of my group are really quite successful engineer still, and with good career. So most likely everything were done very good. And what else? And I would say that I was not the only person who is working, because a lot of new companies also have opened, like startups. Some of them are not startups, like for example, Motorola has its office in St. Petersburg, and also they learned a lot. Like I would say that there were more or less two career paths, like big corporations like Motorola, which has CMMI level 5, very strict process, and people are working there with and learning also. And I would say like strangely outsource companies who just sell engineers for whatever project, and they also have kind of it was maybe 5 or 7 of them in the city, and they also learned of IT industry, and more or less all my kind of on that period of time, all my colleagues came either from this or those. I strangely squeezed in a kind of a different approach because Marine was more or less government approach. Then it was a US-based startup, which the goal of which was to build advertising system for buses, like buses going somewhere, and it can provide you local advertisements. And then it was like CCTV system, so it was a lot of computer vision there, object detection, people detection, and now it's already more or less commodity. Yeah, but I would say 15 years ago, everything was needed to create from the scratch, and computer vision was not so, usual thing. And I would say that also I implemented some image processing algorithm by my own. But on that place I was started to act as a manager, and it was like again 15 years ago, and that's probably the quite major and important point in my career. Then I was already like manager and grow, and in kind of more with peopleware.
So, so you would say that to summarize that maybe a little bit,
Yeah.
with a strong background in like when you became an engineer, but also working as an engineer. So really having the opportunity to get the academia side of it, but also the applied side of it, right? And feeding each side with each other. And then you said that not too many opportunities, not too many different paths. The majority of people went one of those paths. But you said that you really entered the marine and the part that where technology was necessary, yeah, for different. You don't have customers per se, you don't have users per se, right? You have a government that is dictating where you're going and what is necessary for the technology to evolve.
Yeah, and you should also understand to build a ship, it is effort for more or less a kind of 1,000 people,
Yeah.
maybe more, and set of companies are working on. And I was kind of somebody who integrate all of that, like because it's like the information, a computer which provides the whole information about the whole ship, and from this perspective, it is like I don't know, tens of different integrations with different equipment. It's really very similar to robotics, but it was not on that moment.
But here you switched from being an engineer to being a manager and being in charge of orchestrating, organizing, streamlining, delegating, and really bringing different things together. So, but your engineering background was necessary to be able to do this in the first place, because otherwise you would have not the technical expertise to understand if this is the right steps of order, is this the right prioritization, are all the players that contribute to the bigger system, are they the right ones? Do they have the expertise and technology necessary to make the bigger, more, yeah, like working, right?
For me, it was much more simple question. One time I understood that I asked myself, what talent really I have, where I can be great. And I realized that my code is not the best. Like, like, like it's good, it's not bad, but that's not something which I can proud of. then I did some shift to architecture. Architecture was too overcomplicated, honestly, and but it was closer. And then I tried to work mostly with people. And what you're talking about is what tools you can use to lead people. And it is both, like, the vision, technical vision, business vision, and if you understand both kind of worlds, why it's needed, what's the cost of it, uh, how to create it in each level, you're really a good leader, strangely, because you don't need, like, to track people. You can speak
Mm.
with you can help, you can ask, what's the problem, and think together how to resolve it, and maybe ask other guys and also lead the conversation, or sometimes learn from someone, and that's what I'm doing, like, well, last 15 years, honestly, like work with people and we together doing something. And from this perspective, that's very different areas. I did, like, strangely, banking, CCTV, telco, post operator automation, like for 300,000 people. Yeah. Autonomous factory, now humanoid, and all the time it's all you're working with people, and you together with them creating something amazing, and that's kind of what I'm doing. Sorry for the emotion,
No, no.
and I don't think that's the difference. Like, manager or engineer is important. Yes, have engineering mind. For me, it's much easier to work with engineers, but my mindset, let's together do it. That's it.
I think what you said earlier on was like not tracking versus like asking the questions, what is not working, right? And I think there's a lot of interviews flowing around with Elon Musk, and really getting to the bottom of it, like not talking to managers but talking to engineers. So what is the problem? What is the biggest problem, and what can we do to solve that? I think is a good approach to majority of things, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because it's kind of the most true. The problem is that you should, understand, yeah, yeah, and somehow to map, like, business needs to engineering needs, and that's the most complex thing, because it's like a bit different worlds, but that's the same thing, honestly, but with other, I don't know, dimensions.
mm. Now that you're working on, and we're not quite there yet, but coming closer to that. Now that you're working for and with Humanoid, um, which is based in London, as far as I
Yes.
know, you do have different approach towards things, right? And I don't want to make this too much of a topic here, but um, I see this also even here within Europe, right? There's a different mindset in Germany versus it's in France, or it's in Italy, or in Spain, or in the US. So I think every culture has its own way of ticking. Neither is bad or good. It's just different, right? So you spent yeah, some time in Russia, and work there, right? Now you're in the Western country. Can you tell me things that you see where you think each side can learn from each other? So is that an
It's
example
a
where you think,
good question. Uh, you know, for me, it is two things, honestly. One is different cultures, like, it's really different. Uh, but from another hand, every time with all people who have the same background as engineering. And that's kind of simplify a lot of things, because you can talk about the content, and it helps with context. Uh, let me say one more thing first. Uh, I've been working in London for 5 years, and before we did autonomous factory with Arrival. I don't know if you know
Hmm.
Arrival. It was a startup which was the goal of Arrival was to build electronic vehicles like bus, van, cars. And my goal was to build autonomous factory which can produce any kind of this vehicle on the same shop floor.
Mm.
It involved a lot of stuff like IMRs, smart cells, factory control system, digital twin of the factory. So really, the factory as a robot. And 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 for me, the biggest challenge, honestly, was not the engineering work, but learning curve how manufacturing is working. And I have realized that I would say manufacturing itself is very, very separate topic because and mass production is the most complex area, I believe, still on the planet. So to produce something, it's also Elon telling, is much harder than really to design this something. And for example, I spoke with during interview with uh, I would say lead hardware engineer from Apple, and he told me sometimes that for each scale they redesign the product. Like you have one for design for I don't know 1,000 pieces of production, and absolutely another for 10,000, and very, very different for 1 million, because each cent is kind of matter in this case. And from this perspective, what I found is a really gap in engineers who are doing production and software engineers. And it's a bit higher than gap between hardware engineers and software engineers. And because it's kind of absolutely different mindset. At software living in agile world, you need to iterate fast, you get result fast, and so on. And building the factory, it is like 3 years project. you can't you can't iterate really. And for me, that was really challenge, honestly. Like how to build such complex thing where with hardware, software together, and complex operations, because in the factory people should work all together in different, I don't know, frameworks with very different cultures. That was really, really hard, but we did that. Honestly, we built such a factory. It have produced, I would say, 18 vans, but and after that, like working with very different people with different cultures, much easier. Maybe because, you know, again, sorry for reiterating, uh, problem with, I would say, waterfall style thinking and agile style thinking, much, I would say, more complicated rather than like cultural difference. Because again, all engineers more or less kind of understand each other in any in any point of the world. Yeah, and from this perspective, I would say that this was the challenge, and
So
like
really not the technology part. Sorry for interrupting.
yeah,
So not really that. I mean, technology is always a problem, especially hardware, as you said. Producing cycles, feedback cycles are much longer, but really people's problem, right? And bringing them together, making them work together, aligning them, and making them understand each other. So here again, soft skills really do matter. Mm.
yeah, agree. And Yeah, and that's honestly the hardest part of work. And I would say, if answering your first question about cultural difference, I would say I have found that I'm too direct. So I
Mm.
was needed to change, how I behave, kind of to be much more softer, like tipping, uh, and I would say for for me as a manager, soft skills became the hardest part, honestly. Yeah. As, but it is feasible. Everyone can do it.
I think this is one of the main. I think these days it's a bit different because I can remember that we had some courses about that, but I imagine, assume, let's say, that in the 90s in Russia, there is not too much modules that you take on soft skills. So there is not too much time on how to lead people and how to talk to people. I do have, and I have one or two friends that are very similar. I tend to always be too direct and like cut the bullshit and really let's talk about the things that really matter and be upfront may be a bit hard in the beginning, like the sand in the gear, but in my experience at least long term it is saving a lot of time because you get to understand each other better faster and you get to know you get a better feeling if this is a good fit, right? And if you make it through the hard parts, you're rewarding yourself with deeper relationships and better understanding and easier alignment. But this is just one. I think my wife would say this is just my perception of it, or my positive way of describing this, or justifying the way I am. But I can understand that this is definitely something people should pay, yeah, attention when building something.
Yeah, agree. I really sometimes just how to say prepare uh, my teammates with sorry guys, sometimes I'm too direct. Please tell me if it's too much, and usually I'm not. No, but and honestly, I would say my recommendation is just to look to the people because really if you will be kind of attentive, you will see. Like if you're doing I don't know something wrong and you're kind of again, I'm talking right now about cultural difference, and sometimes you just really don't know how to behave because
Mm,
some of the people very soft, but they are, like I don't know, from Asia, for example, but they are very, very frustrated. But on the face it's seen, whatever he or she is telling, just look to the people,
mm,
and
mm.
it would be very helpful. And from this perspective, right now we have very, very multinational team, like people like from Britain, from US, from Canada, from uh, Asia, from Arabic countries. So really a lot, and it's very easy because if you have really multinational team. Uh, People are ready to have to be they're tolerant honestly and from this perspective it's I would not say that it's very how to say big problem. What I would say here that really um, like common human behavior like to be kind, to greet each other is something which work and everyone wants to work in this environment honestly.
I think especially in the industry that we are in, and you do have a lot of startups. Startups very often don't survive too long. So the majority of startups still fail after a few years, and so you have people that are going from startup to startup. I think people that have been in one or two startups, they understand that there is a mixture of culture, and then there's a startup technical work culture, right? That's not as universally, but can be understand more easily. And I think this is a good option for us to come to the later part of the podcast, and maybe giving you the opportunity and giving us some ideas or some insights about the company that you're currently working for and that you're trying to build and scale. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background context here, and yeah, let's see where it leads.
Yeah, sure. So, we, humanoid. So we are doing the robot. And from this perspective, we have started last April. Uh, and honestly, again, so I told about that I was the first employee, and we together with Artem, he is a founder of the company and investor, decided to build the best robot. Like just okay, let's do it like in this way. And if you want to build the best robot, you need like best people with right experience. And the second thing, also, you need to have, mm, how to say, or we decided to avoid learning curve in hardware because the cycle of learning in hardware, like 1 year or more, and that's honestly both of this demand us to looking for the people with the right experience. And there was just few startups with humanoid robotics in Europe and quite a lot in US. And we were quite successfully convinced really great guys like architect from Agility, chief electronics from Boston Dynamics, like head of hardware from Century, staff engineer from 1X. So we really have collected amazing team. And honestly, I believe that on that moment, we have probably the most powerful hardware team on the planet because we have, by these people, we have access to all kind of world experience or best in the class experience about hardware. And we're kind of iterating fast. Right now, we have a pre-alpha robot. This second half of the year, we're expecting to build an alpha. Also, what is important, our differentiator, we're trying to be more commercial oriented, product oriented. So, like trying to avoid, to reinvent the wheels and integrate if something exists, integrate it, use it as ready. And from this perspective, really, we will build kind of quite reliable robot, so alpha this year, and with two configurations, wheel-based, leg-based, and also we are working with local UK partners, like big retailers with whom we would like to do some POCs, and there are a lot of demand, honestly, and attention. So everyone want to talk with us. So we're really, it's amazing time and honestly, uh, amazing context. I mean, business context for such a thing.
Is there a specific moment in time this year? Because companies tend to like to use a specific event or maybe do their own event. I- Is that something that will happen, where you have a big announcement coming up, special moment in time this year you're looking forward to, or is that something that will be decided on, many factors, I guess?
Most likely, I would say second, and that's how to say. We trying mm, to 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 move fast, but I don't think that it is the right approach, like to create the product as like one step that's ready, that's all. The creation of the product is an iterative thing. We need to talk with customers, what really requires. We need to check our hypothesis. We need to run, which you need to check robot reliability. And based on this fact, present it to the world. And from this perspective, of course, it would be some events. I really can't tell about that, but from another hand, we already talking and working and doing some POCs with real customers, because again, our focus is to create the best product in the world, and the only way how to do it is really try and get the feedback. And from this perspective, we try to be here more like, I would say, pragmatic. And yeah, we have 3-year plan, 5 years plan, honestly, when we will start the production, mass production. We also kind of have quite pragmatic, have, I would say, we're understanding very well the competitors, what is const, what's the pros, what is const, how we will be there. And I would say, again, our goal is to be, I don't know, one of the biggest humanoid company in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. And again, for me, again, personally, it is not the event. It's going to continue work. And we're doing this.
I mean, the competition is high. It's still, just earlier I was talking with someone else about the ChatGPT moment, right? For robotics, is it around the corner?
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about, will that be when robots really being in our homes? That will be maybe like available for everyone. Then can be, but also the competition, is high, but the problems are higher. So there's still a lot of things that are unsolved. Security is a topic, not only for you, for every single company that is building a humanoid, right? Because
Yeah.
when you have a metal machine that should work autonomously, there's some risk towards it, right? Even, and you were mentioning manufacturing before that, and there's a long list of requirements before you'll be able to deploy something in manufacturing, right? And so you can imagine the list the list of requirements you do need to tick off before you'll be able to ship into people's home, or care for me, care for people, make my food, clean my room. But thanks for giving such a little insight in it. I think we're really looking forward to a few announcements this year, and especially as Europe is really trying to keep themselves relevant in the tech space, AI, robotic space. It's nice to see someone building, the team building a company in Europe. The UK is not, the UK has a rich history of being inventors as well, right? So seeing here in you industrial revolution happening. It's interesting. Thanks for giving so insight.
Yeah, and I agree. The kind of safety and robot reliability is the most challengeable thing, because until it would be resolved, it's not possible to bring robots at home.
Mm.
And that's why we are aiming on industrial zone applications right now. It's factories, warehouses, because this area is much more safer. Another thing that we also have two form factors, one elect version, another one wheel-based, because for wheel-based, it's much safer, and also what's important for wheels, compliances exist. You really can it could be how to say tracked as IMR or during the movement, and you can kind of implement safety based on that.
Mm.
From this perspective, for early commercialization, it's much easier. But again, for biped form factor is very, very powerful, and again, we're doing both.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the newest because I think it was a few weeks ago when I first saw some renderings, and I've been to a few fairs now. I've seen a few, but really looking forward to see a little bit more from Alpha. And yeah, maybe even though you can't name anything specific, is there because you were mentioning iterating with customers. Is there any customers that you can reveal already, or collaboration or
Yeah,
POC?
we're in collaboration with one of the biggest retail company in the UK, but I can't name it. From this perspective, I expect that after successful POCs and maybe pilots, we will announce that, but we're not allowed right now.
Mm. Yeah, I'm very happy that you said yes, and yeah, I'm happy that you were giving some insights not only in your education and how it was in the 90s being an engineer in Russia, but also talking a little bit about the current project. And I think everyone is keen to see what kind of humanoids are coming out of Europe. So thank you again for taking your time, for taking the time and being so transparent. And yeah, maybe. You will reach out to me when there will be new announcements so I can have a sneak peek.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, then take care and bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.